Welcome to the Little Wins Podcast, where school leaders share their little wins that build strong culture, with your host, Karen Borchert. Hello, welcome to Little Wins Podcast, where we talk with education leaders about the small but powerful things that they're doing to build strong, positive school cultures. I'm your host, Karen Borchert, and today's guest is Alison Canter. Alison is the principal of Live Oak Elementary School in Carencro, Louisiana. Passionate educator and a Carencro native, Alison brings nearly 2 decades of experience in elementary education to her leadership role. She is especially proud to return to the school where she began her teaching career, now with a broader perspective on how early learning impacts long-term student success. I know we're going to learn a lot from her today. Welcome to the show, Alison.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. Well, let's get started. So you're returning to where you grew up in a leadership role. Tell us a little bit about your education journey.
Definitely. So I started here in 2006 as a 5th grade teacher, and all I wanted to teach was social studies. I wanted to be the next history buff. And after our first year, I was asked to teach all subject areas and to tackle students with the most deficit and learning needs. And so I said, hey, let's try it. And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with working with students with disabilities and ended up going back to school, getting my SPED certification. So at that point, I stayed here. I was about 9 years. I did the educational setting a couple years and then moved to middle school, which has kind of always been my hope, was to go to teach middle school. Not many people say that, but I love middle school. So I went to a not too far down the road and I taught 6th grade social studies again. Okay. And then moved to a STEM school where for our family needs. My son was going there and he kept begging me to be at the same school that he would be at. So I went there and I taught math and then started my administration. I went through instructional leader there. Then went to a different high school for my assistant principalship. And then when this position opened to come back home, I had to jump on it. And so I'm hopefully so I can start here and end here is pretty much my plan.
That is awesome. That is fantastic. One thing I know about you is that you are a 3rd generation educator. Tell us a little bit about how that has influenced your leadership and how you think about that.
So both my parents are educators. And so growing up as, one of 5 kids in a 2-teacher income, that was always humbling in itself. But it also taught me that you have to look at different perspectives and different backgrounds and definitely formed me into the person that I am today. But my mom's mom was also an educator. I did not have the benefit and pleasure of meeting her. She passed away when my mom was only 7. Okay. And when you ask my mom her favorite teacher, it was always her mom because she got to teach her 1st grade. And she always credits her in the person that she is. So I know that I became who I am because of her generation. But my favorite is the story of how she became a teacher. So she lived in this little small town outside of Lafayette Parish called Abbeville. And her brothers sold a cow so that she could go to school to become a teacher.
Oh my gosh.
And because that's what she wanted to do. And they were from humble beginnings. And so she did. First of all, it only took a cow to go to college. That was number one.
Yeah. But first of all,
and it helps me remember to stay humble. Because we come from humble beginnings and it's an honor and a privilege to do what we do on a daily basis. So I remember every time I see a cow, I remember that story, but it also led me into knowing that it's in my DNA to do what I'm doing. And we are blessed to be here. And, we have other educators in our family and, there's everything, but my mom is definitely, and which in turn her mom has been my biggest influence in every day of showing up and doing what I need to do.
That is awesome. What a great story. Thank you for sharing that with us. I love that. Well, take us into the walls of your school. Take us into the hallways. What is it? What's the school culture like at Live Oak? Tell me a little bit about that.
So Live Oak is a hidden gem. So we are actually Lafayette, Louisiana is, the address, but we service the Carencro area in a real rural. And in the last 10, 15 years, it's really becoming more of a suburban area. Mm-hmm. And so we've seen a huge change in the population. We've seen an increase in our ELL population. and just the diversity has changed tremendously. And so when I came back, a lot had changed in the school, and the culture and everything had kind of flattened out. The teachers were very frustrated, very tired, very burnt out. And so when we came in, the first thing I did was revived it. Got the cosmetic revive, because if you look good, you feel good. Did some changes. My superintendent was 100% supportive of getting in there and understanding, where my vision was and how much I loved this school and loved this town. And I was going to do heart and soul into it. And so I decided when I came back here that we needed to see it in the hallways, and the teachers just jumped on it. The people here, my staff, I know everybody says it, but I'm telling you it's true. They are just genuinely amazing people. Awesome. The staff, a large part of them have been here since I was here. And you have to have that servant heart to want to stay in a school, because we have a high need. We are very much a high need school, high population. But when you love your kids and you love your job, then you're going to want to stick it out. And now my goal was to bring joy of learning and joy of teaching back. And I think we're getting there.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Can you talk a little bit more about that revitalization? So you said you kind of came in and revived the culture. Can you talk about what kinds of specific things did you do to do that?
So the first thing I did was talk with the teachers. Yeah. Okay, catch me up, guys. I've been gone for about 10 years and tell me what's been happening, and where's your frustration? What do we need to look at? And a lot of it was the same message that you hear everywhere, not enough time, too many tasks, things like that. But a lot of it was they just didn't feel heard. They just didn't feel appreciated. And so we have what we call a cafe here. And when I was at Northside, at the high school, it had started then. I saw what the growth of bringing the community behind the school does. And so that was my first thing. We're kind of in this little niche where Carencro, Lafayette, which one? And so I made that effort to really jump into the Carencro community and make that connection. So the community knew we were here, and we had somebody to support us, and the teachers felt it. We grew, when they had the cafe the year before, there was about 6 regular members. Our first cafe meeting, we had 96 people here.
Whoa.
Amazing. Now, I didn't say that was the big extreme to start it off, but because people were excited. We wanted to out. And so after that, it would kind of, about 20 or 30 people were constantly here at every meeting, but the energy was here, and the things that we asked for, the things they needed. And, the door after COVID, a lot of those doors had closed, and they felt like it never really reopened. And so that was one of the other big things that I wanted to do, was open our doors. Let know what is happening here, what is amazing. And once we got the word out and we started pushing out all the great things that were happening, the parents felt it, which to me is, if you win over the parents and they can trust us with their kids, then we've won. And so that culture of just the doors are open. We love coming to school. We want your kids to love being here. Our truancy rates have lowered. And just the atmosphere. You walk down these halls and the climate is positive. It's loving. They know that their kids are safe and loved here.
That's awesome. Okay, we have to go back to this idea of the cafe. So can you walk us through it? What exactly is it? How does it work? Tell us all the details.
Excellent. So cafe is community and family engagement. And it is it's bringing together the school leaders, the school members, and all of the stakeholders. So you'll have, religious leaders, government officials, the school board, parents, local businesses, everybody coming to the table. And our first year was a lot of coming and showing. We always set up 3 goals. And so the last 2 years, our 3 goals have been teacher retention, truancy and discipline, and literacy. That's been our 3 goals. And so everything that we're trying to incorporate is bringing those things together. So
these happen in like a team, like a community-wide meeting. Is that how it works?
So we'll meet. So we used to meet monthly. Now we meet quarterly, but also through emails. We'll send newsletters out of all the information that's coming through and giving them opportunities. So it's putting everybody together with a common goal, and then how can you support us?
Okay.
Either through financial means, but also just showing up and being visible when we have events and things like that.
Awesome.
And so with that, it gave the stakeholders a voice too. So like when we come together, as we look at the educational lens, my husband actually would come to some of the cafes and he'd be like, stop using all the acronyms. We don't all the ABCs. We don't know all of them.
Yeah.
So like, okay. And so it's just been amazing to see things from different lenses and different perspectives, because you want the community to support you, but if they don't really know what you need or why you're doing what you're doing, they won't 100% support it. So it's just really built that trust with the community.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. What are some of the things that have come out of those cafes? What has like gotten accomplished or changed, or initiatives that started? What are some of your favorite kind of success stories from that?
So my exciting success actually just happened last week. We brought a group of principals from the Carencro area that feed into each other. So through rezoning, we've gotten a little bit more structured where we feed in. And so one of the things we realized is we had some strong cafes and we had some weaker cafes, but we're all in the same community. And so we're using the same people, and we're having a meeting. Do I go to this meeting? Like we were kind of exhausted. Right. And so we needed to be smarter and more efficient in what we were doing. And so we started last year coming together with the Carencro Coalition and bringing everybody together, the big people like the government and all those things that can't make 5 meet.
Yeah.
Right. So there's 3 elementary schools, a middle school, and a high school.
Okay.
And from that, we talked about how we have got to start building a common language. We see that when they leave our 5th grade of the 3 elementary schools and they go to the middle school, that's where we have a lot of problems.
Okay.
Like it's, that the behaviors, the discipline, like they kind of, we're not meshing really, really well.
Okay.
And so the task that my superintendent gave us was get them better ready for 6th grade. Yeah. And so one of the things we started this year, which I'm super excited, I work with a lady with junior achievement. She's been this June. She's been amazing. She started a program when we were at Northside that does leading ladies and mentoring men for the high school, where they come and they bring the kids together. We just talk about basic financial things like that. And I'm like, wait, we gotta do that in elementary school.
Yeah.
High school's too late. We got to jump on this now. And so this year we took 15 from my elementary school, 15 from the other elementary schools, and 15 from the middle school, and all brought them together to do this program so they could start building their relationships now, so that when they go to middle school, they've already started those leadership roles and those mentoring roles.
Yep.
How powerful is that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was our first step. And then we went to Harvard to a culturing change seminar last week, the 5 principals and the nonprofit that runs the cafes and one of our district leaders who's phenomenal. And we came up with this huge action plan to start into next year of just continuing this momentum of getting the students excited about our middle school and in turn our high school, and building that trust with our community and our parents again. It's going to be amazing.
That is awesome. I love that you are. I mean, that sounds like a national model, right? Like that's a very, very cool.
I would love for it to affect everybody, but I'm selfish. I just wanted to change my community.
You just want to work for you. That's good. They're right. We're talking about little wins here, right? This is that's the name of this. Okay. That is awesome. Well, I mean, I can only sort of start to imagine what your team is like when that's kind of where you're starting with that community and family engagement, that cafe. So, tell me about your team.
My team at school?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So I have built, so this is actually going into my 3rd year. So I've only been here 2 years.
Okay.
And in our 2 years, what we have been able to accomplish, last year, we brought in a program called Capturing Kids' Hearts. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. I mean, that was just so enlightening on building the relationships of our staff, and then in turn, building the relationships with our students. And at the end of this year, we got some sad but great news. But my assistant principal is moving on to a principalship, and they were heartbroken. Mm. They were like, "Oh my gosh, and to me, I think this is probably one of our little wins is we came in and we had a meeting, and I sat in every PLC and I looked at him. I said, you have to understand what we're building here is bigger than one person. Mm. I trust that if something happened and I'm out the door tomorrow, that y'all have enough built here and y'all have enough confidence and enough training and enough ability to keep doing what we're doing. This is bigger than just one person.
That's awesome.
And it's bigger than the AP that's coming. I mean, unfortunately, my next AP has some big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
But she's going to do great because that's what this is about. It's about building something that's bigger than ourselves. And that is, and when you keep that in mind of you're creating and changing kids' lives, and so this team, they are 100% behind it. They know that it's relationships first, kids first before the scores, right? Relationships before scores. And because if you can build that and you can build those confidence in the students, then the rest of it's going to all fall into place. But I have just seen it all the way to the walking across that stage.
Yeah.
If we don't build an apt love of learning internally for these kids, then we lose so many of them before they even, walk through ninth grade. It's so disheartening. And seeing it all the way through, I'm more empowered than ever in belief that we have to get them just loving learning, just the love of learning this young and age.
That is awesome. Okay, so you talk about this new AP coming in. We have lots of school leaders that listen to this podcast, and I'm sure you're not alone in bringing in kind of either new leaders, new staff members. When you're bringing in a new leader into the building and they're filling big shoes, like you said, what are some things that you are doing or planning to do with that new leader to help them understand kind of the mission and vision values of the school, or understand kind of how things work here, or just help them be successful when they're filling big shoes? What does that look like?
So unfortunately for this particular person, she kind of had a sink or swim moment. She started in at the end of the year and it was kind of like, wait, I got 85 meetings. Go do this, which was a great first test because she passed it with flying colors. It was great. So I think a lot of it when it comes to new leaders that are coming in is, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Like, I think we have that tendency because if you're a good leader and you want to jump in, you want to do everything you possibly can, but really getting to know the staff and getting to know the kids is your first priority because you have to come in with a servant heart. And if you're not coming in and knowing the people that you are with and understanding what you're coming into, like you're not coming in to fix or rebuild or do something. You're here to be a part of a team. And what is your, what can you add to the team, but also what can you learn from the team? Like we need you have to come in with that energy that you're not just wanting to come in and be a part of the change. You also want to be a part of learning from the change.
Yeah.
And humbling yourself to say, okay, what can I get from all the people around me? Then that's going to build that trust in that relationship. Then you'll be able to do anything. You can conquer anything.
I love that. How do you do that? How do you learn from the team around you on a regular basis or within your building? How do you go about kind of learning from your educators on your team and from the work that they're doing?
Well, I think a lot of it is putting your actions before your words. Yeah. I am one of those people. One of my teachers put me on Facebook mopping up the cafeteria floor. Like that you have to be anywhere and everywhere you can. And you have to, every person is significant. Every person is a part of this team and you need to be able to hear them. I think my biggest struggle that I have to work on is keeping this open for our natural abilities. We want to go and fix and solve things, but just like we tell the kids, you're going to learn through the struggle. You're going to learn through the struggle, just like me. And I think a lot of it is you build that trust by being, humble enough to say when you messed up and going and having those conversations. I'll go into PLC and I'm like, you know what, guys, I made this decision and it just wasn't the right one. Like, let's sit and talk it out some more. Let's talk about some solutions. I am one of them. They know I have big ideas. I always come, and in fact, my first year, they went from having no activities, no stuff, and it was like this calendar. And so finally, I have my teacher liaison group. And so we meet monthly and they were like, all right, you're going to have to tone it down. Yeah. I'm like, what? I thought y'all wanted fun. And they're like, too much. bring it down. I'm like, okay, all right, what do y'all want to eliminate? I'll own it, and so I think the biggest thing is that as a leader, you walk on the side of them, not in front of them. And sometimes you need to walk behind them just to find where they're falling, where the weaknesses are, and then build them up. I think we have to remember that every person on this campus is human and has a life outside of the school.
Yeah.
And a lot of them forget that they have a life outside of the school too. So you have to help remember that. But always walk on the side or behind. Try not to be in the front too much.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. I love that idea of kind of learning through the struggle. I certainly understand the need to close your mouth more and open your ears more. That's I also struggle with that. We share that. I heard we're working with some educators on building some school culture resources this week around here, and one of them has this saying that she says, which is to own your oops, which is like when you mess up, you just you say and apologize for it, create something positive out of it, show that you learn from it.
And I was like, I'm feeling that. Own my oops.
Own your oops. Yeah. I loved that. I was like, ooh, I need to do a little bit more of that. But thought that was fun. Well, those are all, I think, just such great, kind of great things that you're bringing to your building. And I think it's evident that you, you focus on making sure your teachers have a really strong voice, in their culture and in the decisions of your school, even in kind of what activities and fun and things like that. Are there any other things that you do to kind of increase the level of voice and the kind of seat at the table that your team has?
So I'm actually implementing, this is something I learned because, we do our Title I surveys and at the end of the year, we gave back when the surveys came in and we sat and reflected it. And first I had, they were laughing. I had to all of my feelings like, I thought I was doing so good.
Yeah.
I want 100% across the board.
I know. It's only good if it's all green.
Right. That's in here. Of course, I'll just reflect on the one or two. All these were great, but one or two.
Oh, yeah. Those are the only ones you look at.
Exactly. 100%. But in those 1 and 2, like I really sat and reflected, and my paraeducators, who are like the backbone of the school, because we have a very large med population, they didn't feel like they had much of a voice. They felt like, and then I realized they don't even have a department. Like they don't have. So that's one of the things I changed for the upcoming year. Our district has developed this amazing initiative of our core values. And it's right aligned to how I believe. Like I tell my kids when they come in, I said, I have 3 jobs. Most important. Number 1, to make sure you're safe. Number 2, to make sure you're learning. And 3, to make sure you're loved. If those 3 things are happening and you say they're happening, then I'm doing my job correctly and we're good to go. And so the district has 4 core values: our safety, our culture, our growth, and opportunities. And so with that, under those pillars, we are creating for next year committees based on those pillars, where the teachers, everyone on the staff, from the cafeteria to the classroom, is going to be assigned into one of those pillars to collect data, to collect evidence, to see how we can make it stronger, and to really embrace the district's vision, but also in Live Oak's vision as well. And so that's one is going to let me step back a little bit because, I need to have a life too outside of school is what they're telling me.
What?
That's what they say. It's a rumor. But it'll give them that power to be able to say, okay, well, I think we should do this or this. I don't know if we need to do that. Or if we're going to do it, then that means you need to be here.
Yeah.
It's kind of things. And I'm excited about it, and they're excited about it. Like the last day of school, I spent sitting with each department and let them pick their department lead, let them pick which pillar they wanted to be on. It wasn't like, you're doing this, you're doing that. They all selected where they need to be after I explained what I expected from each one.
Yeah.
And they're excited. They're going to be able to look at next year as something they can own up and honor it for, which I'm excited about.
That is awesome. Okay. So can you go back there though? You just mentioned, so you said your peer educators didn't feel like they had much of a voice. And then you kind of said, they didn't really have a department. Did you change that structurally as far as like kind of giving, how did you go about?
So you have like your grade levels and then you have SPED
Yeah.
and like your SPED teachers and your paras all lumped together.
Yeah.
And so now I created our SPED teachers and our SPED paraprofessionals have their department and they have a lead. So when I have lead meetings, their lead will come and speak on their behalf.
A literal seat at the table. Like you
really, I do this too, because there were so many. They said, can we have an upper and a lower? I was like, sure.
Wow. That is awesome. That's so cool. That's such a clear and simple thing to do. And I would imagine it probably doesn't cost a lot to just make that structure happen so that you just change who is sitting at the table and how that looks. You implemented that before the end of the school year?
We started at the end of the school year for us to lay the groundwork so that this summer, if there needs to be pillar meetings, they at the end of those meetings, who's expected. And then I'm also changing the structure of the staff meeting.
Okay.
So
tell me more.
Staff meetings that we have to have, the blessed staff meetings.
Sure.
We're coincide with in services because our district does a great job of really kind of stretching out our in services or breaks and things like that where the kids aren't on campus. And so the big staff meetings will happen in parallel with them. But our pillar meetings will happen once a month. So once a month, everyone still has the expectation of staying after school one day, but they just meet with their pillar. And in that pillar, we'll make decisions based on what's coming up and things like that. If there's any key information, things that we need to do, I do a weekly newsletter. So those things will come up. I do lots of Google, forms and surveys and things like that so that they're constantly giving an opportunity for their voice. But awesome. This will allow them to be more efficient in their time and feel like they're coming for something specific.
Oh, that's awesome. And those pillars are aligned with those district values, that safety, culture, growth, and opportunity.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And they have done, and I love it. I applaud my superintendent because, he also is the value. The scores, we only can control to so much. There's so much more that goes into a school than the data numbers that come out. And, I am blessed to have a population that struggles, that needs extra love and extra time to get where we need them to be.
Yeah.
And so their scores aren't going to show up right away, once we build those relationships. And then we also have a very high transient population. So, I have kids that will come, leave, come back, leave, come back, and they'll leave my school and come back to my school 4 or 5 times between kindergarten and 5th grade, and that's hard because you're kind of catching up. You got to build the relationship again. You got to build the trust again. You got to do all these things. And so with all those obstacles, he's also with this core value system, he's taken into account the fact that there's more that goes into a school than, the scores are absolutely important and we need them to guarantee them graduating. And that's ultimately our goal at graduation.
Right.
But there's more to that than, there's more to the story. And so I do appreciate the fact that he is giving us that opportunity to showcase our schools in multiple ways.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. So you mentioned kind of this, that you have this sort of transient population. I think there are a lot of schools and districts who have that same, kind of that same situation for various reasons. But I imagine that a very transient school population or kids coming in and out, throughout the year and things like that could have a really put a big challenge on your teachers and on your staff overall. Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like for you all, and how do you help that be less of a burden for your staff?
So that is one of the key things I don't think I figured out yet.
Okay. I love that honesty. That's amazing.
I'm owning my oops on this one. And we're crying. I did a lot of changes last year to put more tutors in the classroom, not just in our RTI time, but pushing in tutors to help the teachers as much as possible. And we saw some benefit to it, but it's building that trust in that relationship. I don't think people, and I don't think parents realize, one, how hard it is for the child to constantly be moving back and forth, and that instability. But the whole makeup of a class changes with just kid moving in or moving out. Like you got to rearrange. There's a lot of things, and it can affect the whole relationships that you have of your kids. And so
even just the practical, tactical of like, where does everybody sit, and does everybody have the right stuff, and like, is everybody up to speed on, at this lesson level, which is probably a total moving target? Like it seems like there's a lot of just like day-to-day time burden on a team if you've got lots of kids going in and out. Is that right?
That's absolutely correct. And I mean, and then if you do it in those crucial times like testing, those testing weeks and things like that.
Yeah.
This year, during our testing week, we had 12 people come and enroll during our testing 2 weeks. Like, that's like, you know, and you got to figure these out. And look, they laugh at me because whenever there's a new student enrolling, my secretary will text me like, okay, we got new students. I come out, new Eagles. I'm so excited. I love all the children. But it's a burden on my poor teachers. I go and I'm like, yay, we got a new Eagle. And they're like, yay. They're like, right now.
So good.
We got to figure it out. But my counselors are amazing.
Yeah.
They'll bring the kids in. They try to learn as much about the student as possible before we bring them into the room. Because, I mean, you have all these factors now that we didn't have years ago. You know, are they SPED? Are they 504? Are they tiered? You know, where find out all these things. If they come within district, it's an easy find. If they're coming out of parish or out of state, then you're really just doing a shot in the dark until you figure out where it needs. And some kids are more vocal than others. Some of them have learned to advocate for themselves and some are a little bit more shy. But I think that it does become wearing on our staff and our teachers because when you have teachers like I do that genuinely love their kids and build such strong families in their classrooms, new family member comes, you want to embrace and love and make sure they just come right in and, jump in and when like
feel
nothing.
a part of it. Yeah.
But unfortunately, it doesn't always work out that way because we know that a lot of our kids come with trauma, with, circumstances outside of their control that they have to build a trust and an understanding. And so they kind of go through their growing pains, but man, I do have to applaud my teachers for, 99.9% of the time, I will get a new kid in that room and I won't even remember. I'll go in a week later and I'm like, where's our new kid? They left and they're like, no, I'm right here. And I'm like, oh, you just blended right in.
You just blended right in. That's awesome. That's awesome. That obviously is coming. I mean, you mentioned, kind of building trust, like those kids are building trust with their teacher in that new room, in that new building. Those counselors are doing everything that they can to really listen and understand the kid before they're bringing them into the room. That is obvious that is coming from a culture of trust among your team and at your school. A culture of trust is, gold, right? It's everything. So are there any things that you're doing that, it kind of specifically around building trust on your team and your building in that way, besides obviously mopping the cafeteria? What are the other, what are some things that you're doing to really build that trust?
One of the things that I know is really, really important is, because I'm guilty of it when I was a teacher, we like to stay in our own little world. I don't like to, I don't want to share my ideas. I don't want to, I'll go and I'll steal your ideas. That's good. But I'm not going to tell you I'm stealing it. We're very territorial. We're very hard to break past that. And so I knew that the first thing we had to do was build the relationships among ourselves. To be okay with affirming each other, with pointing out the good things that we're doing, celebrating the good things we're doing so that we can learn from each other. Building love of teaching and love of learning goes for my staff and my students. We have to continue to learn and love from each other. And so right away, I started what we call Eagle shout outs. And so can I turn my picture so I can show you what they look like?
You can show us anything.
All right, let me move my little camera. Oh, well, look, the camera goes. I don't have to do that. Look at this. So these are the ones that I have. So these are Eagle shout outs. And so it's an opportunity. These are from this year. And it's something super simple that they set up and they send in my amazing librarian and my band teacher take care of this for me every Friday. They walk around. And when me and my principal are able to go around, we go with our instruments and we're playing music and we're cheering and the kids know we're coming and it's fun. So it's just giving thanks for the little things that you've done. Like, thanks for holding the door for me. Thanks for, and I encourage them, try to give one out, 2 out a week, but, try to give it to somebody. And so we'll do little tasks in the newsletter. I'm like, all right, this week, pick somebody from the other side of the building that you haven't talked to, but something that you really like about them, and do that.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I really felt like we had to build those relationships. My very first initiative I did, because when I taught here, we have the East Wing and the West Wing.
Oh,
well, all the little kids are on this side of the building, and all the big kids are on this side of the building. Well, I was on this side with the 5th grade. My best friend happened to teach kindergarten on this side. So that's the only reason why I ever went over there, because those kids, I didn't want to have anything to do with them. And she definitely
you're like, I'm going to get the flu.
No. It's naughty. They got it. Oh, no. And, but we didn't know anything about, it's like 2 different faculties.
Yeah.
And so we started what we called wing pals. And they had to pull out of a hat, and they would just write notes to each other and little, can we get a little gifts? I said, whatever you want, but all
oh my gosh, like pen pals, but between the 2 wings.
Classrooms, yes.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute. I love it.
Yes. And so that was kind of how we started it. And then that built those relationships. And so that's why I knew I just needed to build a trust within them, within the staff. And then they're happier. They're more willing to come and listen to each other and grow from each other.
That's so awesome. I love the idea of pen pals from different sides of the building. One of the things you hear often is, if you are a 4th grade teacher, you think about it, like you do work in a building filled with adults, but if you are a teacher in a classroom and you're spending so much of your day, and it's hard to even get out to fill your water bottle or, run to the restroom or something. So somebody once said to me, like, you don't see another adult all day. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Like that's kind of mind blowing when you think of lots of workplaces have, 100 adults in them, but most of them see each other, throughout the day. So the idea, I love the pen pals idea. I think that is such a fun one. I bet we'll have some people take that one from you. So they'll steal that one from you. Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Well, this is amazing. You have so many good ideas. I love the work that you're doing everywhere, from the cafe all the way to building team trust. It's so fun. Are you ready for our 3 questions that we end every episode with?
Yes.
Okay. We end every episode with the same 3 questions. So we'll start there. The first one is, what are the 3 words that you want to define your school's culture? I have a prediction based on this conversation. So what you're going to say, I'm going to see if I'm right.
I'm going to go with trust our village.
Trust our village. Okay, that wasn't what I predicted.
I want to know what you thought it would be, though.
I thought it would be safe, learning, loved, because this is what you were saying with your 3 jobs.
Okay.
I love trust our village. Will you just talk a little bit more about that?
Well, I think as a statement, it's great, but all 3 words are really important, because if you don't trust the process, trust the people, trust where we're going, then we won't be able to get there. And then I'm very big about, it's not yours, it's not mine, it's ours, it's we have to be invested as a community into what is happening here, because I only have them for, 6 years. And then 13 years after that, they're a part of my community right down the road. And so I take it very personal that these are our kids and our generation. And then village, it's always about a village or the team or the group or the whatever word we're using on that brings everybody together. We all have our part in this for it to go right.
That's awesome. That's great. I love it.
Like you 3 too. Both of them could have worked.
That's good. Your words are your words. I like them. I just also loved those 3 goals that you have, that you tell kids, and the district values is just like, you have such a grounded sense of kind of purpose and values in what you do. Okay. Second question. What is one little win you've had at work lately that we can celebrate today?
So at the end of the school year, we had one of our students who, my first year here, needed a lot of love, lots of love it. He struggled, both socially, academically. He's being raised by his dad. He's doing, trying to do the best he can. And we went back and forth, and there was a lot of relationship building, a lot of forgiveness, a lot of teaching him to advocate for himself and not give up on himself and not, and so this year we started off rough, but I'm like, dude, the thing is, down here we have a phrase called tête deux, which is hard-headed. And so I said, babe, I'm sorry, but I'm just as Ted as you are. And so we ain't giving up. It ain't happening. And he was our first 1,000,000-word reader this year and had the highest reading in the school and got all kind of prizes and just highest accomplished. And when I saw the tears in his eyes and his dad's eye, when I tell you that was by far my greatest win as a principal, because that's what it's about. When you can see, always tell him it's that apple pie feeling that, it's like you're all hard on the outside, but as long as you're warm and gooey on the inside, I'm fine with it. I can let you look hard on the outside. That's fine.
Yeah.
But apple pie. And I was like, you got some apple pies.
Oh, that's so amazing. Okay. You have to tell us that term again. That means hard-headed. So can you spell it for me?
Oh my gosh. Come on now. I'd have to look it up.
Okay. Yeah, because that's the French word for head.
Yes, so it's tête de head. So it's French. It's Cajun.
Yeah, Cajun French. Tête de. I love it. I've never heard that term. I
heard it many times growing up.
I was going to say, if I grew up in Louisiana, I think I would have heard it a lot. But I've got a couple of children in my household that I think might need to hear it. So that's
a great reality when it's used correctly.
Yeah. Exactly.
It is what has gotten me to where I am today. So you see, I always say, just in moderation.
Yeah. It's strong. It's just needs the apple pie. That's amazing. Okay, last one. We often say on the Little Wins podcast that school culture is everybody's job. It's everybody. Every educator can be a part of a strong school culture. So, what do you believe any educator can do to improve or strengthen their school culture right now?
Listen.
Yeah. That's a good answer. Anything that you specifically do to encourage your team to listen?
I think a lot of it is just modeling and reflecting, being humble to the mistakes that you've made and the things that you've done, but modeling those expectations. And, I always try to remind them, don't expect more out of your kids than you expect out of yourselves.
Wow, that's good wisdom right there. Don't expect more out of your kids than you expect out of yourself.
And then one thing I was told by a mentor administrator that I think is really good for any administrator, no matter what level they're at, is to not expect yourself in others. That was where my frustration came as an assistant principal. When I started an instructional leader and then assistant principal, everybody's unique and everybody's different. They approach things differently. So when you're going into a situation and you're looking at it, stop expecting yourself and everybody, because you don't always like yourself. So move on. You might like somebody else better.
Right. That is some amazing wisdom to close out this particular episode. I love that. I'm going to be thinking about that all day. Don't expect more out of your kids than you expect out of yourselves, and don't expect yourself out of others. That's brilliant wisdom, and I'm so grateful for it. Alison, we have got some little wins in this episode, right? We learned about the cafe. And what a big win that can be about really just kind of opening our doors to our families and letting them know that it's a place we want to be, putting relationships before scores, mopping the cafeteria floor, restructuring a team just to give more people a seat at the table, and then even really fun things like Eagle shout outs and Wing Pals. I think all of this is understandably brilliant work that we can bring to any school. These are all things that anyone could do, and so I love that you shared them with us today, and shared this wisdom with us. Thank you so much for being on the podcast and just for sharing your extraordinary leadership with all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Have a little win? We'd love to hear from you. Learn how we help schools build strong culture at getalpaca.com.